Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's first video. We're going to have a look at the long-range seasonal models for today's first video. We're doing the third and final seasonal model roundup for the winter of 2019-20 for this video. So a very big and important video to start us off. Of course, we've got the winter forecast coming up at GWV tomorrow, same time, same place. And ahead of that, we've got the third and final seasonal model roundup. And then that's it. We're done with all of the updates and we've just got to release a forecast tomorrow. So I'll get on with the season model roundup for you very shortly. Just to say that the second video update coming up today will be weekend forecast, and then we're also going to have a week to 10 day video update as well. And I think we've got a Christmas update penciled in for tonight too. So it's going to be a very, very busy old day of updates here at GWV. I hope you are going to enjoy all of the updates. Right, so let's get on with it, then. Going to start off with the GEM. Got 14 long-range models, by the way, to get together here. And all of these models will be covering forecast timeframes from December to February. So not going to be any messing about with sort of November to January, nothing like that. Every model will be covering the full winter timeframe. We begin with the JMA. So this is the 500 millibar height anomaly for winter of 2019-2020 from the JMA. We have broken this down into monthly periods, of course, in the video that we did on Thursday. Haven't got time to go in depth into all of these charts today. So if you would like to know how this breaks down month by month, then have a look at that video that we did on Thursday. British Isles in the top right-hand corner of the chart as you are looking at it. So, unsettled really for this winter with the JMA. Below average heights, low pressure up to the northwest, above average heights to our west-southwest. We're bringing in west-southwesterly winds. That looks Atlantic driven, mild and unsettled. Temperature anomalies for this winter with JMA are being forecast to be above average, a mild average winter. Coming up, above average precipitation as well, so a milder and wetter than average winter is on the way if this is right. The mean wind direction for this winter is westerly. You can see that from the black arrows here blowing in across the Atlantic into the UK. Westerly Atlantic dominated winter to start us off. Our next model is the Brazilian model. So this is the 500 millibar height anomaly for winter of 2019-2020 from the Brazilian model. This one always does things a little bit different in that blue is extrapolating to above average heights, which is high pressure, and yellow, orange and red extrapolate to below average heights, which is low pressure, and the other height anomaly does that the other way round. So for this winter, we see an area of high pressure actually sitting to our east, which is quite an interesting anomaly. That high pressure does extend towards us. We've got lower pressure, not particularly low pressure, but lower pressure in the North Atlantic. That looks like it should be bringing in a rather drier winter and maybe sort of easterly or southeasterly winds. So to me, that looks like it could be a rather cold type situation with high pressure to our north, quite a lot of high pressure towards Greenland, quite a lot of high pressure over towards Scandinavia and Western Russia too. That does look to me as though it could be quite cold and blocked. Temperature anomalies are forecast to be above average for this winter, but then again, they always are with these long-range models, so I wouldn't necessarily take that too seriously. Precipitation anomalies show wetter than average conditions sort of there and also down in the Mediterranean. For us, near normal precipitation or no signal. Excuse me, I think, reading between the lines, that could be going for a rather colder pattern anyway of high pressure suggested to be to our north and also to our northeast as well. All change with CANSIP, so we go north from Brazil to Canada. This is the mean sea level pressure anomaly from CANSIP, and it looks really unsettled. Low pressure is dominant over the UK and the North Atlantic as well, bringing in the jet stream. That's a rampant jet stream and areas of low pressure, so that looks like it's going for a very Atlantic driven and westerly winter. Precipitation anomalies, as you expect with a westerly Atlantic-driven winter, are milder than average, not just for the UK but for most parts of Europe as well. Precipitation anomalies are wetter than average, which again is what you'd expect if we have an Atlantic-driven, stormy, zonal type winter. You would expect a pretty wet winter, and that is exactly what CMCC is forecasting. We move on to the International Research Institute for Climate and Society, part of Earth Institute and Columbia University next, with temperature probability for the winter of 2019-2020, and we're looking average here, or we have no signal. So no signal really for temperatures. It looks like a mild average winter for Scandinavia and also for western parts of Russia. But for most of Europe, and the UK is included in that, all of these areas westwards, most places having no signal for this winter, a rather cold winter perhaps forecast or predicted for parts of Germany. But for us, we have no particular temperature signal. Precipitation looks a little bit above average though. So the probability is favouring slightly above average precipitation in the west of Europe, also for many northern parts of Scandinavia as well. Peng's analogue showing up next. So, of course, Patel is working within the umbrella of NOAA in the United States, and this is an analogues-based forecast. Peng is looking at the sea surface temperature anomalies across the world in any given month, in this case during October 2019, and then using those sea surface temperature anomalies, looks back to past years, has similar sea surface temperature anomalies, and then creates an analogues forecast going forwards. This is a 200 millibar height anomaly, looks unsettled. Low pressure is sitting up to the north around Greenland and Iceland. High pressure is ridging through the central Atlantic into west of Europe. It looks very westerly, this, bringing in westerly winds, which would of course be mild. In fact, going for a very mild winter. Peng's analogues looking very, very mild for this winter, not just the UK, but through most parts of Europe as well. In fact, North America also coming out with an exceptionally mild winter. Precipitation anomalies rather wetter than average in most parts of the UK. It's driving average to our south in towards Spain, Portugal and the Bay of Biscay, but where we are, actually, particularly the northwestern areas, is looking like rather a wetter than average winter. CFSV2 showing up next. So this would be 700 millibar height anomaly from the CFSV2, going for high pressure to be down towards Spain and Portugal. Low pressure is up towards Greenland and Iceland. We're bringing in a westerly wind. That looks like, again, an Atlantic-driven, mild and wet winter forecast by CFSV2. Temperature anomalies are forecast to be mild and average for this winter, not just for the UK, but for most parts of Europe, bringing in those southwesterly winds and driving in mild air from off the Atlantic. And it's a wet winter as well, so precipitation anomalies again forecast to be significantly above average, not just for the UK, but for most parts of northern, central and western Europe as well. Moving on to ECMWF, this would be mean silver pressure anomaly from the ECMWF for December, January, February, winter 2019-2020, and again looking unsettled. Low pressure is dominant from off the Atlantic. High pressure is down here, a little bit weaker than some of the models have it, bringing in this westerly wind. I mean, it's nothing more than Atlantic-driven, wet, windy, potentially even quite stormy. Temperature anomalies from the ECMWF seasonal model for winter 2019-2020 forecast to be significantly wetter than average, not just the UK, but for most parts of Europe. Precipitation anomalies, if anything, are on the slightly wetter than average side for northern Europe, which you'd expect, we're given a very mild Atlantic-driven and westerly winter. Meteo France, mean zero pressure anomalies from Copernicus. Again, low pressure is dominant to our north. High pressure is stronger, though, to our south. This is another very mild pattern. It's definitely a trend with this third seasonal model roundup. Mild average with winds off the Atlantic and the jet stream coming through the country. Temperature anomalies with Meteo France are forecast to be above average for the UK and most parts of northern Europe. Precipitation anomalies are wetter than average close to the UK, so a mild, wet Atlantic-driven winter is forecast, particularly for the north and west. DWD is our next model. This one, again, looking very unsettled. A little bit different mode with this one in terms of the mean sea level pressure anomaly, with the low pressure sort of centred more over the top of the country. That's more of a trough of low pressure sitting over the UK. Jet stream's a little bit further southwards with that as well. There is slightly more wintry potential with DWD compared to ECM or Meteo France, although the overall temperature anomaly for this winter from the DWD is forecast to be milder than average. Precipitation anomaly is also wetter than average, so a very unsettled winter being forecast there from the DWD. Milder than average, but not quite as mild, I would have thought, as some of the other ones that we've seen in this update. CMCC, which of course is coming from the Mediterranean, this Mediterranean model, shows again lots of low pressure in the Atlantic into the UK. I think again with this, the jet stream just a little bit further southwards compared to Meteo France and ECMWF. Temperature anomalies are actually close to average or have no signal here. Across most parts of northern Europe, you'll notice in the Atlantic it is rather colder than average, just to our west as well. Not such a mild signal with the CMCC. Not quite as wet either with CMCC. You'll notice it's wet than average through here, which does imply that the jet stream is a little bit further southwards. So that one could be hinting at something a little bit cooler for this winter, but otherwise most of the Copernicus / ECM output is indicating quite a mild and wet winter. This is our first colder than average winter forecast. This is from JAMSTEC. This is the temperature anomaly from JAMSTEC for winter of 2019-2020. It's going colder than average for this winter. That's the first one that we've seen that has below average temperatures. Also, over on the other side of the Atlantic, across many parts of America, it's colder than average as well. It's the first cold average temperature forecast that we've seen with any of these long-range models. Going for rather wet winter with JAMSTEC 2 with above average rainfall. So still very unsettled winter. The only difference is that it's a colder winter, probably because it's seeing high pressure to be in the North Atlantic and going up towards Iceland, and low pressure is sort of through here, and that would leave us pulling in more of a northerly type influence. A little bit colder, therefore, and still very unsettled with more wintry potential with JAMSTEC. Beijing Climate Centre next, so we're coming to the end of this third and final season weather roundup. So this is the 500 millibar height anomaly from the Beijing Climate Centre, going for a trough of low pressure to be over the top of the UK with a blocking area of high pressure up to our north. That's one of the more interesting charts that we've seen for this update from a cold perspective. It does have a trough of low pressure over UK and extending into central parts of Europe as well, with high pressure underneath it. You would have thought with this that the jet stream's likely to be on more of a southerly track, perhaps. This is how the month-by-month breakdowns looking with the Beijing Climate Centre, which we don't normally do, but I thought we would do this just for this final season one roundup. So for December, we have above average heights in the middle of the Atlantic, below average heights as a trough over UK and to our east. Rather cold and unsettled then in December. Cold and unsettled, a little bit of wintry potential could be mixed in. That's January, and we raise the heights massively to the north. Look at all this red, but sitting to our north. Now, for us, we've got the low pressure centred sort of in the Atlantic and into the UK. So it isn't a particularly cold signal, but with so much northern blocking being indicated there for January, that could very easily force cold air into this trough of low pressure and send that low over to central parts of Europe to become centred around here. That's very, very strong blocking around Greenland. Beijing Climate Centre is seen there for January. February just looks straightforwardly mild, really, with high pressure over Spain and Portugal, and the jet stream is going northwards. So we're bringing up southwesterly winds, looking milder in February. The overall temperature anomaly for this winter from the Beijing Climate Centre, very close to average, perhaps a little bit on the mild average side, but it's not a big deviation. Certainly in terms of the temperature on it, it's one of the cooler models that we've seen in this update. Precipitation anomalies, quite interesting actually. Western average for England and Wales. Also many central parts of Europe looking western average. It is driving average though out to our north and west. So you can envisage that the jet stream would be overall a little bit to the south of us perhaps, with some higher pressure up here. So the Beijing Climate Centre isn't going for a cold winter, but it's not all that far from a cold winter, as you see what I mean. It will only take a little bit of an adjustment. And then finally, we've got our very own UK Met Office GWV model. So this is, again, mean sea level pressure anomalies for winter 2019-2020. This one is just straightforwardly mild. High pressure is to our south across many western and southern parts of Europe. And low pressure is to the north with all of these blue colours up here. Jet stream again shoved off northwards. So if you want a cold winter, that's about as bad as it gets, really. That's going to be a very, very mild winter pattern. Temperature anomalies are significantly milder than average, with glossy and the precipitation anomalies perhaps a little bit surprisingly wetter than average, despite high pressure across France, Spain and Portugal. Overall, it's a rather wet winter. Of course, there could be a really wet month in there somewhere, but skewing the anomaly to some degree. But there's no getting away from it. GWV 5 is going for a mild and wet winter. So that is it. That's the third and final season 1 roundup done and dusted. And the trend obviously is continuing where we left off with the second season 1 roundup, which is for a mild, wet, Atlantic-driven winter, bringing in the jet stream, bringing in the areas of low pressure, giving above average rainfall, but also above average temperatures. There are 1 or 2 models that are deviating a little bit, 1 or 2 hint at something a little bit colder. The only actual colder than average temperature anomaly forecast we have is from JAMSTEC. Other than that, they're all sort of mild or at their coldest, no signal or average. So that's it. There's no getting away from the trend with the models, which is very much towards Atlantic driven, wet and windy, mild type winter. We're going to put these long-range models with the winter updates and our final winter 2019-2020 analogues that you're going to see presented to you in the winter forecast tomorrow. And then we will release the GWV.com winter 2019-2020 forecast. That will be 10 a.m. tomorrow. So only another few hours to wait. 1 more sleep. And then we reach the winter forecast. But we're going to have a week ahead forecast coming up for you later, and then a week to 10-day video update, followed by a Christmas update this evening. This video will be placed on the winter updates page with a written summary later on today, and then tomorrow it's the big one, the GWV's winter 2019-2020 forecast at 10 a.m. tomorrow. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.